It is time to review a game that's just out today. It's a very big deal. It's Square Enix publishing a game developed by Eidos Montreal. The baton was handed from Crystal Dynamics to Eidos Montreal. It is Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and this is the end of a very, very big trilogy for the Tomb Raider universe that started with the original 2013 Tomb Raider, which is what the recent Alicia Vikander movie was kind of based off of, and then we had Rise of the Tomb Raider. And so this is a trilogy that started in the previous generation of consoles, and they have been iterating on it and adding to the story and adding to the mythology. And it's been all about Lara Croft sort of assuming the mantle of this fearsome Tomb Raider. And I have to offer some full disclosure here. We're actually working on a video that's a project that's Tomb Raider related. Although any projects that we ever work on with anybody don't impact my review scores at all or my opinions on anything that we do. We've had tons of sponsors and tons of partners over the years, and I think if you know me and have watched my work for many, many years, you know that it has no bearing on how I feel about a game. Now, I've just finished the game. I just walked away from playing it this morning. It's still humming and resonating inside of my brain. And I've said this many times about reviewing games like this, single-player titles like Spider-Man or God of War or whatever. It's really hard to just sort of walk away from the television, put down the controller, and just sort of give all of your thoughts about these games. It's kind of the wrong way to appreciate them as well, to just sort of race through them to get all of the details and sort of get your basics on the information that you want to provide. Because I don't think most of us in our busy lives have, I mean, I do, because that's my life, is I review these games, but most people in their busy lives don't just burn through the game like that and are able to kind of really cleanly assess it. And what was especially weird for me playing Shadow of the Tomb Raider is I just came off of Spider-Man, which arguably had, I would say, probably a much bigger budget and a lot more time and a lot more stress and people involved to make that thing incredible, because it's an exclusive for PlayStation. So I just put Spider-Man down and then jumped into the Lara Croft adventure. And when I looked at Lara Croft comparative to Spider-Man, it's not as elegant, it's not as clean. The story is a little bit convoluted and a little bit sort of jumping back and forth. I did notice that it starts in the middle of the story because Lara's on the hunt for Dominguez, sort of the head of Trinity. So it really sort of expects you to have some familiarity with the lore and have played the other games. And I think that's kind of a reasonable expectation for the third in the trilogy for sure. But it does kind of get right to it, and you jump right into tombs, and then you pop out of a tomb and you're inside of a little city, and everybody's got their skeleton masks on, and it's sort of the Day of the Dead celebration. All of it is spectacular and beautiful, but there is no ramp up. There's no sort of onboarding with this. You're just sort of propelled right into it, and then you spot a major bad guy, and then you create all kinds of chaos that you run from, and you've got a lot of carnage and a lot of, I guess, sort of guilt to deal with, but the adventure continues, and it felt a little bit clunky, I have to tell you. At the beginning of the game, I was like, oh my god, we're just bouncing back and forth, and we're not really sort of understanding all of the reasons why we're doing this. The mechanics were there, the gameplay was there, it was beautiful, all of that stuff, those check marks were checked off, or those check boxes were checked off. But once I found the hidden city in this, and there's always a hidden city in these elaborate sort of, globe-trotting adventures like this, particularly with Lara Croft or Nathan Drake, but you find the hidden city, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And what Eidos Montreal has done in this game is crafted a bunch of hub worlds where you encounter a lot of NPCs, and of course you'll go off on side quests and fetch missions, and lots of people to talk to, lots of detail to kind of get lost in, and that's when the game really opened up for me. That was when I was like, oh my god, look at the totality of this world that has been crafted for us. It's way bigger than Rise of the Tomb Raider. I think the original Tomb Raider was kind of close to an Arkham Asylum kind of vibe. It was a small, contained, sort of straightforward adventure where we see this person that's freaked out of her mind survive a lot of carnage, and it was really well crafted for that. It was really gory and brutal. but it was a nice sort of perfect launching point. Rise, I think there was a lot of expectation. I thought Rise wasn't as good as the original Tomb Raider, and mostly because it devolved into a lot of gunfight, a lot of combat. And I think Shadow is a better balance of everything. You get a lot of tombs, and you get to explore a lot. If anything, there's a little bit more emphasis on that, and that's the extraordinary work that's a part of this game. The level design and the world building is outstanding. Swimming plays a major role in this, and you're constantly, trying to maintain your air. You find these little air pockets that you can go up, and you are gasping. When I reviewed Spider-Man last week, was it last week? Yeah, last week, I said that I felt guilty playing it because I'm just sort of chilling on my couch and I'm pulling off all of these cool moves, and I just felt lazy. I didn't feel lazy playing Shadow of the Tomb Raider. I felt my hands were sweaty. I was totally freaked out. I thought I was going to die every 2 seconds when I'm either jumping and shooting out the grappling hook to kind of clamber up some wall that's falling apart on me, or I'm swimming into a tunnel that's getting narrower and narrower, and there's these dead skeleton hands trying to grab you, and you're like just searching for air. I was like, come on, don't die. I loved all of that. I think with these types of games, my predilection or my taste sort of, and I found this with the Uncharted games too, I kind of veer more into the exploration, into the puzzle solving, and there's so much of that in this game that it feels like a great bounty. Not only do you have the story tombs, but you have all of these challenge tombs. The challenge tombs unlock all kinds of extra abilities that Lara gets, so suddenly she'll be able to swim a little faster or breathe a little bit longer underwater. She'll have this extra sort of sensory perception by taking some plants and being able to, see where the goodies are, but also where the bad guys are. The one thing that I would say about the storytelling in this game too, and Blake actually brought this up, is that she's an archaeologist, but she's just bashing through walls and just finding all kinds of stuff, and she leaves a lot of devastation in her wake, both from a philosophical level, but also from an actual physical level within the game. And I think that weighs upon her, and certainly she has this really great relationship with her compatriot Jonah, who is one of the only characters to have been able to survive with Lara Croft as we've gone through this trilogy. And he kind of is like a moral center, like the angel conscience that's sort of questioning some of the choices that Lara makes as she's in this mad pursuit to claim these relics that have powers that are devastating. And there are some incredible cataclysmic sequences in this game that, again, don't allow you to feel lazy at all, And I was definitely having a little bit of a problem sort of following all the way that the narrative was going and what all these different objects were. I wasn't really spending any time in the menus, but Eidos Montreal put a lot of effort and a lot of craft in the side lore, in all of the relics and all this stuff. And so when you play this game, if you're going to get this thing to add to your collection, I would say definitely take a moment to use that pause button to look at each one of the artifacts and to read the books and the journals and things like that you're picking up, because it really embellishes. The game has a massive scale. It feels way bigger. One of my problems with Rise of the Tomb Raider is that it felt like it was kind of circuitous. You would get into an area and it would kind of loop back onto itself, and it felt a little like you were inside of a theme park. The scale of the carnage and the stuff that you did in Rise of the Tomb Raider was massive, but it felt like the world was kind of just sort of folding in on itself everywhere. This one doesn't. This one feels like it stretches on for miles. There are massive jungle sequences. All of the tombs kind of make sense, and they're also not too difficult. You don't sort of sit there freaking out over trying to find what lever to pull or what light to shine wherever. But they make sense, and they also make sense how you escape these tombs, which is really phenomenal. And I just feel like the scale is fantastic in terms of size, but sometimes the confrontations don't make a lot of sense. Like, you'll fight some bad guys, and you're trying to be stealthy. That one of the new mechanics here is being stealthy, so you can put mud on your face and hide in the bushes and pop out and stab somebody without anybody hearing. Very cool. I like that a lot. You can also climb up on trees and kind of Arkham Asylum, shoot somebody and pull them up and string them up that way. You kill a lot of people. It's also an M-rated experience. But you'll get through some of this stuff, and usually it will end up in one or two firefights along the way, and you think, okay, phew, I survived that. But then, like, literally like 15 feet later, a bunch of people will not have heard all of the carnage that just occurred. And that just felt a little bit weird. It felt like you could feel the game design sort of the modules just sort of placed in, and I feel like that could have been finessed a little bit more. Not to say that any of those experiences were not thrilling. It was great to be stealthy. It was great to be climbing. It was great to get into the firefight stuff, which I think was really embellished and perfected in Rise of the Tomb Raider. It feels good to shoot the shotguns and the machine guns. And the bow and arrow's exceptional all the way through this thing. There's lots of augmentations. There's lots of different ways that you can craft your costumes. And I got to the end and I beat the big boss, and I feel like it is absolutely not the end, and there's a lot more to do. And I didn't do every side quest, and you know, I don't want to leave this world, and that's the cool thing. Is like this is the new game plus gets unlocked, and you can keep all of the stuff that you've got and start over again. It's a massive, gorgeous, super thrilling, super fun game. It's not perfect. It doesn't have like the, I think the standouts in terms of single-player action-adventure games this year are God of War and Spider-Man. It doesn't have that level of polish, but I think it's definitely better than Rise of the Tomb Raider, and maybe not as shocking and original as the original Tomb Raider was from 2013, but it's way more beautiful. I played it on the Xbox One X, and it looked incredible. The HDR lighting and all of the underwater effects especially just knocked me out. Gorgeous game. And I gotta tell you, I got a little emotional as well, because there's some really nice tie-ups with Lara Croft's parents, and there's some flashback pieces. I'm not gonna reveal too much, but all of that stuff was really nice. And I know that this is not the end for Tomb Raider or for Lara Croft. Square Enix has got a lot of value in this property. The character is incredible. I think that there's now a ton of new material for future sequels for the movie version that they're putting together. I would assume that more are coming. But I think this is another one of those experiences that really just sort of underlines what a fantastic character Lara Croft is. And I can't wait to see what happens now, because presumably they will reboot again, and who knows who handles that, but it will be on the next generation machines, and all of the learnings that we have from games like God of War or Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, all of the stuff that we're picking up right now will be employed with whatever new tech is out there. Anyway, Shadow of the Tomb Raider is a terrific experience. I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10.